Like we had this game. We had this game.
How was it like getting through Stuyvesant for you? Because like, have you ever felt like any kind of imposter syndrome there, or like any kind of like anxiety or any kind of discomfort while you were there? How was your experience?
So the short answer is no.
Okay.
So going back to the beginning, you know, being a young kid in elementary school, I felt like I had a head start school-wise, especially when it comes to math.
Also lab, right? It's a pretty good middle school.
Right. So like, for example, when walking to school, whenever my dad would walk me to school, we would do like...
Middle school?
Elementary school.
Oh, okay.
We would do like math problems.
When you're being walked to school?
Yeah.
At like what time?
This is 8 in the morning.
You weren't
8:30.
like sick of math at that point?
No, I thought it was fun.
Oh, wow.
Because it's like you're doing puzzles. And puzzles are fun.
Okay.
It's fun to problem solve.
Okay.
And I still feel that way. And my dad would always find some way to frame the problem that made it fun. Or at least like frame it in such a way that, you know, you had to think about it. But he never encouraged me to simply memorize. He always encouraged me to figure it out.
To think.
And so it was never just like, what's 6 times 7? Okay, remember that it's 42. No, it's, you know, it's try and figure it out. Find some way to...
So how did you feel in like bio class where all of the classes...
Oh, I hated biology.
Okay.
Any class that requires me to do a lot of memorization,
yeah.
I did not enjoy as much.
Okay.
Historically, I enjoyed the math classes. I enjoyed some science classes. Like chemistry
Physics?
has some problem solving. Physics has a lot of problem solving. Intro physics is basically just math anyway. So like I enjoyed that a lot.
All of the like, if I were falling off this thing at like X miles per hour, but I haven't learned physics in like a hot second. So just go to one of our physics tutors.
And so then, but the classes that required a bunch of memorization, it's like, you know, what are you testing me on here? Like, just like what year did this important event happen? Yeah,
and do you also remember or grasp it after the class?
Like, no,
exactly.
Right? What's nice, at least with history, is like when they make you write an essay, because then you have to like actually think about it. You know, you're spending a lot of time thinking about one piece of history, one event in history.
But then I forget the essay.
Well, sure, but you at least like you remember something. Like in 8th grade, I wrote an essay about John Brown, right? And it wasn't a good essay.
I think you just have abnormally really good memory, though, because like you're able to remember really, really fine details.
But I don't remember any of the fine details of that essay. But I remember the gist of what John Brown did because of that essay. You know, like when they force you to apply the stuff that you've learned is when real learning actually happens.
For me, okay, I agree. That's why like I really like applied math, because it's like applying the stuff that you learn. And also like too much of theory kind of drives me insane as well, or like just like pure memorization. For me, like in history, the best way for me to like absorb information or to learn information is for it to be like story told, like really interesting and told in like a funny story, like a fun story. So, for example, one of the few, this is kind of morbid. I had Mr. Hannah, who was the AP Euro history teacher. And AP Euro is notoriously really hard at STI because it's like, oh my god, all of European history like, getting crammed in this like big book. And you said Stuyvesant was like okay level for you, like academic wise? Yeah,
because I didn't take it as seriously as most of my peers. I think our year had like a 93 average or something and our year was pretty good on average, like higher than most other Stuyvesant years. But my average in high school was only a B+. And that was because, you know, Stuyvesant is this environment where if you want, you can take all these super hard classes that have hours and hours of homework where you're getting 0 hours of sleep or, you know, 3 or 4 more realistically. But like that was a lifestyle that I really just did not want to participate in. And my grades did suffer a little bit for it, but I was more than happy getting B+ at one of the best schools in the city. Although it does mean, you know, competition-wise when it comes to colleges, that I'm pretty much guaranteed not to get into any of the top colleges in the country. Because there's always going to be somebody from Stuyvesant who's better than me.
You did get into a really, really good college, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, I got into NYU, and I'm happy there.
He says it like, I got into NYU.
Like, but I specifically got into their school for individualized study.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wanted to get into the College of Arts and Sciences, but they didn't take me.
Mm-hmm.
So I just went to Gallatin, which was pretty fun. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm not complaining or anything. But it was like my fourth choice school, which I'm still very happy with, again. But my point is, yeah, like at Stuyvesant, like there's people, taking 4 AP classes at once, and that was me. Like I chose not to flood my entire life with academics.
Mm-hmm.
And Stuyvesant also, if your GPA isn't high enough, they literally do not let you take AP classes.
Yeah.
And it's usually department dependent.
Mm-hmm.
As in, like, they look at your average for the department that you're trying to get the AP class in. I was pretty consistently B+ or, like, A- student, like, all around the board,
Mm-hmm.
which was not good enough compared to my peers to get into most AP classes. I only took 1 AP class, actually, in all of Stuyvesant, which is very low. Spanish.
Oh, right.
And that's because you literally are required to take AP Spanish if you have to take at least 3 years of the same language at Stuyvesant.
Oh, and you started with Spanish too?
Yeah, and I started with Spanish too. So I had no choice. I mean, I wanted to take it anyway, but I had no choice. But then I for the 4th year, I got to take Spanish films, which was really fun because we just watched movies all day.
That's really fun.
Or all class. And then, yeah, we had like tests on them. I had to write about them. But like, if you're spending 80% of your class time watching a movie, I consider that a success.
It's pretty fun, yeah. It's pretty good.
Like, prior to that, my elementary school, I didn't consider it too challenging. I mean, I wasn't great at writing. I'm still not great at writing, but my elementary school also didn't have grades, so it was kind of weird. But I didn't find it too challenging overall. My middle school was a little harder. I mean, lab you have to test into, but I also did fine in lab. Still excelled in most of the stuff that I did. But then, testing into Stuyvesant, the most sought after specialized high school in the city, where everybody around you is just as smart or smarter than you, that was pretty. I finally plateaued. That was the most selective school I ever got into. I didn't really care too much about being not as smart as my peer, or not as smart, I should say, not getting as high grades as my peers. I mean, they're related, but I had a bunch of friends who were getting 98 averages.
That's crazy,
and hearing them talk about all their hard classes and they're still getting 98 averages is like, how do you do that? Like, like, that's insane. Like, I need some time to decompress at the end of the day, to, do activities I enjoy that aren't just extracurriculars.
Well, so they're probably sacrificing like a lot, like of their mental health as well, to get those grades.
Yeah, I mean, one of the old Stuyvesant principals, he said that in Stuyvesant, you have to choose 2 of the 3. Academics, sleep, and social life. And you can only choose 2 of the 3. And there is the occasional person who can do all 3, which, like, I don't know how that person is, there's like a couple in the whole school. But I definitely chose the sleep and social life side of that, because I wanted to have a decent, quality of life.
You say it like it sounds so normal. Like, it's like, how dare I assume otherwise? Like, I just want to have a decent quality of life, but to the average Stuyvesant brain, this was blasphemous.
Yeah, and luckily I didn't exist in any
toxic
friendship spheres where having high grades was a huge part of it. And for the most part, my friend groups didn't talk about grades very much. You do your little bit talking about oh, I did really well on this test, or oh, I did really bad on this test, but not usually the big picture. Stuyvesant is known for being this high intensity competitive environment, which it is, but I think I found a way to get around that, again, at the expense of my academics a little bit. But at the end of the day, who cares? I went to NYU. you know,
Mm-hmm.
I think I ended up, you know, I didn't go to Harvard or Brown or, you know, I wanted to go to those, you know, those would have been cool.
Yeah, everyone did. There were also, to be fair, there were so many, and I think, like, for future Stuyvesant kids, like, I'm saying, like, you shouldn't be like this. There were so many Stuy kids who were, like, devastated by getting into, like, CUNY or SUNY schools because of the whole stigmatized environment of, like, oh my God, you got into where? You got into there? But it's like,
Yeah, and
like, grow up.
that was something I was worried about too. Like, the next best school I got into was Binghamton.
Oh, right. I think you told me about
And, like, I would have gone to Binghamton and been fine with it, but, like, telling people, oh, I'm going to Binghamton, even though that's, like, the second most popular safety school in
It's, like-
all of Stuyvesant.
And yeah, the safety schools are really great. Like, I really enjoyed my experience. I really want to emphasize I thoroughly enjoyed my experience at Stony Brook University. They're good schools. I think they're just really heavily stigmatized, especially at Stuy.
It really does become part of your self-worth, you know, your
Your grades.
grades.
Like, did the worth of grades ever, like, make you feel any less worth?
A little bit, like, not in any major way, because my parents, they didn't really care that much as long as I wasn't failing my classes or
Right.
even getting close to failing. Like,
Mhm.
there was one class I did almost fail, which was pre-calculus. I know I said I liked math, but I really did not like that teacher.
No, and this is what I'm saying. Like, I was talking about this with another person, but if you do not like a teacher, it doesn't matter if you like the subject. I went into college my first year doing the subject that I thought was farthest from math, which ironically was philosophy, which is ironic because
Hey, logic?
right? That's
It's
what I'm
both.
saying.
It's both.
Exactly. Philosophy and math are very, very intersected. But I picked philosophy because my senior year, I had a teacher that was really, really bad. Like, we did not get along, and he also was, like, not a great person.
A math teacher.
Mm-hmm. I didn't really like math at the end of, I despised math at the end of high school. And it was because of a teacher in college that was like, you're good at math. You should try out the math major. And that's how I got into it. But without her, I would have been like a blind, angry curmudgeon.
Not knowing what to study.
Yeah. I would have been blinded by my hatred for math.
Yeah, it is crazy how much the quality of the teacher can affect your interest in
Absolutely.
specific classes. Teachers that I liked, I wanted to do well, not just because I enjoyed the class more, but also because I didn't want to let them down, you know?
Yeah. It's like oh
you're
my God.
trying so hard, I'm enjoying this so much, like I feel like I owe this to you.
Exactly. And also, like, I feel like we can only maintain this kind of relationship, like, of, like, us both being happy if I, like, you know, pull up my effort of,
Right.
like, you're teaching me and I gotta, like, pull up my effort of being a good student, you know? So I get it. Yeah.
And it goes the other way, too. If you don't like a teacher, then, you know, I don't care what they think. Like,
That's true. That's true.
if I get 70s on my tests, whatever, like, you know, they don't
Yeah.
like me anyway, so
yeah.
who cares?
Also, I feel like the culture at Stuyvesant was that there was so much, like, sucking up to teachers. Like, sorry to be put so bluntly, but I think there was a big culture of, like, trying to get on teachers' good side because that's how much grades matter. Almost felt like survivalism. Like, everyone wanted their grades to be really high, that they were, like, fighting hook and end to it. If you had to give, like, okay, so I always like to end interviews with some kind of, like, a interesting hypothetical question. Last time I asked Jason if you had to tutor your younger self in middle school, but you're, like, currently you now, but, like, you know, like, you guys are, like, inherently different people, but you're still, like, it's younger Travis. How would you go about tutoring Travis? Little Travis.
I think we would get along already. Like, I think I would find him a little bit annoying, but like, you know, middle schoolers are fun. You know, schoolers have their own quirks, and you know, you learn.
You tutor mainly middle schoolers.
That's true. And you know, I've learned to really like middle schoolers overall. I think I would have found my younger self funny, like in a more absurd way. Like, I don't think I would have found a lot of the jokes that my middle school self made funny, but I would have found the fact that he was making those jokes funny, like
farting in class. And
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, like I don't think farting is funny, but like, you know, if I like the kid and they're just being silly, then it's like, you know, it's
His kids being
yeah, it's kids being kids, and I think it feels good to to allow kids to be kids, you know, and to just mess around. Because, like, I know that's what I did. And so I want to continue that generosity over to my kids as well. What would I do if I were tutoring him? Let's see. How would I change up my tutoring formula? Because, I mean, I mostly tutor math anyway, and so I think middle school Travis would have really enjoyed that. I would have tried to come up with all these weird word problems that, you know, have a lot of steps to them and are kind of hard. Because I think younger Travis would have been really interested in those.
Would you teach younger Travis things like life skills, like organization, or like how to prepare for like studying for tests, organizing their homeworks, things like that?
That's
like
a good point. I was very bad at organization back in middle school. I've only gotten a little bit better since then. Like I barely used my planner in middle school. Actually, I used it a good amount. I stopped using it in high school actually. But I didn't feel like I needed it as much in high school for some reason. Yeah, I mean, I'm more than happy to give out my wisdom to any middle schoolers who might need it.
Thank you.
Including younger Travis. The tutoring that I did get in middle school, because I got tutoring for the SHSAT. Most people who get into good specialized high schools, or specialized high schools at all, get some form of SHSAT tutoring. Or get one of those prep books and do it themselves. But anyway, I enjoyed taking tests. I still enjoy taking tests. I mean, I haven't taken tests in a while. Would
you know how to teach your younger self test taking skills?
Well, I think so. Like, okay. I mean, I teach my middle schoolers currently some test taking skills. What problems do I want to focus on, spend more time on? When should I abandon a problem and come back to it later? That kind of thing. With a lot of math problems, there's like a correct way to do it, which involves, you know, knowing some formula or knowing some method. And then a lot of the times there's also a brute force way of doing it, where you just like plug in some numbers and it might take a while, but you'll get to the answer eventually. Sometimes you have to figure out, okay, how much time do I want to spend trying to remember the formula for solving this one problem versus just like suck it up and brute force the problem.
Right. Like an example could be, do I know the formulas for like an equilateral triangle, how to find the area for it, or can I just brute force it using Pythagorean theorem, right?
Right. Well, you don't use Pythagorean theorem for the equilateral triangle. Well, I mean, I guess you can.
If they don't give you like the height.
Right. If you're looking for the height, yeah, that's true. You can do it. That's how you can do it for that one. That's true.
Thanks for the math lesson.
I guess my lesson is enjoy yourself.
No, really? Okay, you know what? That actually might be it. Hedonism is great.
I'm all for the worldly pleasures, you know? Like, you know, eat good food, like this stuff. Really tasty. You know, do stuff that you enjoy, right? But, you know, there's still some balancing that has to be done. It's not like you can fully ignore your academics at the same time, right? You still have to do well enough so that you know, some college will take you. If you want to go to college, that is. You know, with college getting more and more expensive, it might seem more and more enticing to, I don't know, go to trade school or something instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're a very specialized case of, like, it being a particularly competitive environment. I think for your average high school student, you know, that's not as much of a trade-off that they have to think about. Where, you know, you're not getting 4 or 5 hours of homework every night. And
then like 4 or 5 hours of sleep every night.
Right.
It's crazy.
And so I think for most people, this is not like an active trade-off that you have to think about that much. Do stuff that you enjoy doing, you know, make sure to do your extracurriculars, because colleges also want to see that too. They want to see that you're expanding your horizons.
Yeah, that could be another video. Like the Big Sib Tutors come around to tell you how to craft a good college portfolio. From our own different experiences, because we did all go to different schools for the most part.
That's true.
You guys can also let us know what kind of videos you want to see as well. We could answer questions about like high school tips and advice and how to survive high school. Although we do have a pretty weird experience with high school. Anyways, we can also tell you things like why it's okay to be weird. How are we weird in middle school?
Yeah, if you fart everywhere, embrace it. Embrace it. Because you're not going to have much longer to do it. You know, when I got to high school, it no longer became
Yeah,
fun to
if
fart
you're young,
everywhere.
you can get away with so many things. Like, if you want to fart,
You'll never get a girlfriend if you fart that much. That's what I learned.
it's okay. You're young. You get away with more things when you're young. But farting is harmless, okay? Any innocuously, like, mischievous things, be more like this guy. If you're below the age of 10.
13.
13. But once you're past that, unacceptable.
No, that's when you got to
Grow up.
shower more than once a week.
Grow up. Thanks for watching another another episode of
the Big Sib.
Cafeteria Chatter with Travis Tyson.
Yes.
Thanks for listening to the Big Sib Tutors.
Cafeteria Chatter with Travis Tyson.
We hope to see you in the next episode. If you want to see more of this guy, let us know. Thank you. Bye.